Recording. Welcome everyone to the ATD Austin Leader in Learning pre-conference session. Today's session is Let's Talk About VoiceOver with Kevin Darborough, who is a colleague of mine at Dell Technologies. Well, sort of. We used to work on the same team and now we're on separate teams, but we will always be colleagues. So first I wanted to thank Kevin for joining us today. It was a bit of short notice and I appreciate you jumping in and sharing your expertise with us. You know, Kevin's going to give you a little bit of his bio, but I also wanted to give you some things that you might or might not be able to find if you Googled him. One is that he is a sketch comedy actor. The other is that this weekend, and in general, he does independent films, but specifically this weekend, he's involved in a film called Thumb Wars. Might tell us a tiny bit about that. And he's also a musician. The thing that I love about Kevin is that he can break things down to a very detailed version. Now, bearing in mind, we have about 54 minutes to go today, or maybe 57 minutes. There might be items that he talks about that you want to dig deeper on. Let us know. Maybe we'll convince him to come back for a chapter meeting or something of that sort. Maybe with much more runway. But in general, I wanted to say thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you being here today.
Sure. Thanks for the invitation, Leah. It's much appreciated. Hopefully I can help some people out with something that they may or may not know about. Briefly, I am a technical training developer senior advisor with Dell Technologies, and I also lead the voiceover team for global sales, learning, and development at Dell Technologies. And so, Leah, you're going to take care of admitting people? Why? Because I see somebody else has entered the waiting room. So.
Yes, I will.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. So, yeah, and so I do a little bit of everything. Master of none. I've worked in multimedia and e-learning and such for my entire career, and as a actor and somebody who is also a musician, I've always been interested in recording and producing sound. So I was a theater minor in college and English major. So of course, instructional design was a natural fit for me. Okay, so let's get going here. First thing we'd like to do is talk about what we're going to talk about. So first off, we'll talk about the types of microphones and pickup patterns. And then we will talk about pop filters, reflection filters, and mic positioning. Then optimizing your recording environment. Sitting versus standing, if you're doing voiceover stuff. Using headphones. Audio interfaces. Script formatting. Then software discussion will demonstrate processing, file saving and naming, and exporting from your authoring tool. And then we'll finally wrap up and have a question and answer. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about types of mics and pickup patterns. Basically, you're going to encounter with voiceover stuff, two types of microphones: dynamic mics, which are good for loud sounds. And so you might recognize this microphone here. It's a Shure SM57. It's kind of the industry standard for live vocals and such. And the Shure 58, actually. The Shure SM57 is the standard for guitar amplifiers and snare drums and such like that. And they're so common. I've even got one that's right here. But they're good for loud sounds, usually in a live setting. The headset microphones are also dynamic mics, but they have a certain sound to them. For more detailed sound, there are condenser mics, which are generally more expensive, and they also require phantom power, which isn't kind of a Halloween kind of spooky season kind of thing. It's just from the audio interface, power goes up the mic cable into the microphone. Dynamic mics aren't hurt by phantom power, but you're going to get a better sound with a condenser mic. It's got a larger diaphragm, and the power also helps it a lot. This apparatus around this is Neumann TLM 103, which is what I use for my fancy voiceovers. This is called a shock mount. What that does is it helps to reduce, say, if you're standing and you're shuffling your feet or something, the sound vibrations will go up to the mic stand, and you'd hear booms and that kind of thing. So the shock mount kind of keeps the mic steady, so you don't get so much of that low end rumble. And here's just a couple examples of sound from this. Is a dynamic mic condenser. So if you notice, it's a lot more detailed sound from the condenser microphone. So generally they're better for voiceover, but either one will work. All right. Now another thing you might want to consider is the pickup pattern on your microphone, meaning where in front of the microphone is it live? Where are you going to get sound from? And an omnidirectional microphone picks up sound from pretty much all the way around the microphone. So if you're anywhere around the microphone, it's going to pick you up, which might be good for conferences or group kind of settings, or if you're trying to record a crowd. Sometimes in recording sessions, they'll put one up in the room just to get the capture the room sound and such. They're used in classical music on stage and such, where you don't need a very, very direct signal. However, they're not so useful for voiceover unless you're doing one of the aforementioned things. So you want what's called a cardioid pickup pattern, or hypercardioid, which is just a more focused cardioid. It's called cardioid because it's kind of a heart shape where the microphone is live in front of its capsule, with that kind of heart shape in front of it. So you want to be just directly on the microphone, on axis, unless you've got plosives and stuff, which we can talk about a bit later. And here's an example of an omnidirectional mic. These examples here, the two above examples for dynamic and condenser were a 58, Shure SM58 and Neumann TLM 103. These pickup pattern examples are from the Blue Snowball mic, which we use here at Dell Technologies as a team, because you can.
I'm sorry, Kevin, I don't think we heard the first ones.
Shure SM58 microphone, Neumann TLM 103 microphone. Okay. These examples here, omnidirectional, you can switch the pickup pattern of the microphone of the Blue Snowball from omnidirectional to cardioid to hypercardioid. And so this is an example of omnidirectional. Okay, and here's the difference between cardioid, meaning right in front of the mic is active.
Kevin, I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, shoot. I forgot to share the computer sound.
Side of the mic.
That would make a difference.
This is the dynamic microphone. Top of the mic.
Okay. All right.
I'm on the bottom of the mic.
All right. So once again, now that I'm sharing sound.
This is an example of a dynamic microphone.
Okay. Hear that? That was a Shure SM58 with dynamic mic. And here's a Neumann TLM-103 condenser mic.
This is an example of a condenser microphone.
Okay. Can you guys hear that?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Omnidirectional.
This is the Blue Snowball mic in omnidirectional mode. I am moving around the mic to the left and the right. Now I'm on the top, and now I'm on the bottom.
And cardioid pickup pattern.
This is the Blue Snowball mic in hypercardioid mode, and I am right in front of the mic. Now I'm off to the side of the mic. Now I'm off to the other side of the mic. Now I'm on the top of the mic. Now I'm on the bottom of the mic.
So you hear how it kind of rejects audio from every place except for right in front of it. So that's why we want to use cardioid or hypercardioid for voiceover recording. All right.
I see you in 3 weeks.
All right. So pop filters, reflection filters, and mic positioning. This is basically our voiceover kit that we use here as a team, Dell Technologies, which is a Blue Snowball mic, the one I was just demonstrating. It's got this thing right here, this circle. In front of it on this gooseneck is a pop filter. And what that is a mesh that prevents too much air or reduces a lot of the air that goes into the mic. It diffuses it. So things like P's and B's, which sometimes will blow out a microphone, you know, kind of thing. You'll hear the air coming from your mouth into the mic. So it sounds, you know, just loud, kind of boomy, breathy kind of thing. So a pop filter helps to reduce that. Another way you can help to reduce plosives, if you're having a problem with them, is to actually talk slightly off axis of the mic. So you wouldn't be talking directly into it. You might be talking across it a little bit. So that will help to reduce those plosives. So, but it's a good idea to have one. If you're having problems with P's and B's and stuff going puh, then it helpful to add that. Okay. Next thing that can help are reflection filters. If you notice behind this Blue Snowball microphone, there's this foamy semicircle, and the microphone actually sits inside this foamy semicircle. What that does is when you're talking in a room, the sound bounces and it travels everywhere, and it comes back when it bounces off the walls and surfaces into the microphone. That's why you can hear essentially the room around you if you don't have any sound reinforcement stuff. So this helps to reduce that. And you can also consider putting a towel down or blankets down. You can even make yourself a little pillow fort or blanket fort, put a blanket over your head and talk in the microphone. And that will help reduce those early reflections as well for more direct sound. So consider covering reflective surfaces around the mic. And so now here you can see the mic actually inside this reflection filter. And this whole microphone kit stands, USB cable and everything, I think runs currently about $150 for everything. So it's not prohibitively expensive, although it's not necessarily the best solution either, but it works for us. Okay, so how far should you be from the mic? A good place to start is kind of the hang 10 kind of gesture between your mouth and the front of the mic. If you want a more bassy sound, then you can lean into the mic and it'll sound bassier. If you want more trebly, you lean back. And so you just have to find the right distance for you and your voice, but the hang 10 from the center of the microphone is a good place to start. Okay, around 4 inches or so. All right, moving on. Optimizing the recording environment. Okay, let's do some user interaction time. Has anybody recorded voiceover, and tell me about it? What kind of environment were you in? What kind of microphone were you in? What kind of experiences did you have? I don't know if you got people on mute, Leah, if you want to chat about it.
Yeah,
or
feel free to come off mute. I believe everybody can come off mute. And I'll answer while they're trying to come off mute. I use a Yeti microphone.
It's also a Blue Yeti, right?
Yeah, and my office is ridiculous. It's very large with a giant glass window, so it's a horrible environment. And already you've given me ideas from our conversation yesterday.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hello. I normally, my name's Sarah. I normally work just in my bedroom as opposed to any office because I don't have one currently. And I work off of some Samsung C03U USB, whatever. It's the more directional, not the large crowd mic.
Okay.
And I have a pop filter and the other background filter.
Wow. Well, you sound really good. Are you on that mic now, or are you on a headset?
I'm
mic?
not actually. Right now I'm on a headset.
Okay. Well, headset mic work just fine too for many, many things, depending on what you're after. So.
Mhm.
I know, and every time Sarah has to record, she has to do it from home. Even pre-COVID at the office.
Noisy.
Yeah, well, you could pick up every car door slamming out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And of course, the worst days for her is in any leaf blowing or,
Oh yeah, I have that.
Oh, yeah.
Thursdays is the leaf blowers on my back patio. Catherine asked a question about why do singers always swallow the microphone?
Well, they're tasty.
That's not why.
Ew. Ew.
No, I mean,
Oh.
they're so close, it just looks ridiculous. And I was just wondering if that's a singer thing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe just like the sound of it. Not all singers do that. Professional singers will actually work the mic. It won't be like always on top of it. But depending if they're going to get really loud, they'll lean back from it. And if
Yeah.
they can sing really softly, they'll get up close to it. And who's ever running the soundboard too will have compressors on there and limiters and such. So it really is unique to whatever singer you're talking about.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, I've always just used my computer sound when I was doing a webinar or something.
Mhm.
And I would just like to ask, does it sound tinny?
Well, yeah, if you're recording just you sitting in front of your laptop or something,
Yeah,
it's those mics are most likely more on the omnidirectional side, so they're going to pick up the whole room. So you're not going to sound as direct as if you had a headset mic or a separate microphone. It's going to get the sound of your environment is going to be recorded as well. So tinny is a matter of, I guess, personal observation on something, but it is going to not be nearly as full as if you had your hypercardioid or cardioid mic right in front of your mouth that is going to reject sound coming from all around it.
okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, anybody else, or should we press on? Okay, I'll go ahead and press on. All right. So you guys have already mentioned some of these, and you're spot on. You want to turn off the air conditioning if you can stand it in Austin or here in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. But I do. I'm actually pretty detail oriented about it. And the first thing is that I do when I'm about to record is I'll listen and see, is there anything making noise? Can I address it? And air conditioning is one of those things that I'll turn off if it's not prohibitively hot or cold. And I'll do record in short bursts, like 5 or 10 minutes or something, and then get back to it as much as I can stand. But if you can't do that, then just make sure that your mic and wherever you're recording is as far away from vents as possible. Close the vent, perhaps, but just do what you can. Okay, and listen for noise and avoid it if possible. And that goes for things like lawnmowers and landscaping and getting as far away from you guys you mentioned all these, so you're totally spot on. We get as far away from noise sources as possible. If that means recording from your bedroom rather than the office, then so be it. Sometimes here there'll be a large truck or just a noisy pickup truck or something that will, I'm kind of out in the country here, that will drive by outside, and I'll listen in my headphones and say, oh, gotta wait, then keep going. And this also goes for things like if you're hungry and your stomach's rumbling and such, and if you've got a very sensitive condenser mic, you want to listen for that and wait for it to stop. And then turn off the television, turn off the radio, phones. Really, if you just listen, if you hear something or if something potentially could interrupt you, like your email notifications or such, uh, close the email program so you don't get "you've got mail" in the middle of your voiceover recording. Okay. Again, we touched on blankets or towels on surfaces and around you. Here's another idea if you can do it. If you've got a long enough USB cable or an audio interface with a 20-foot mic cord, whatever you need, just run it into a closet um, and record in there with a bunch of clothes and stuff. That will significantly reduce the reflections of your voice bouncing off the walls and such. So that's another way to go with that, using with what you've got. Now you can consider treating your environment if you're nuts like me, and I'm still in the process of finishing all this out. This is my walk-in closet right back there, actually, where I have my Neumann TLM 103, and I've got this Auralex is what it's called. There are other companies that make it, but this is the one I'm familiar with. That's the foamy kind of triangular rippled pieces that I've got hung on the walls with the 3M control strips. And so that really does a great deal to reduce the reflections from your microphone. And also, when I finish it out, I'm going to put it up on the ceiling. But I've got popcorn ceiling, so I need to figure out how to either remove that or hang something down or whatever. But again, I take this pretty seriously. It may be overkill for just your general e-learning kind of stuff, but it certainly is a way to go if you're going to be doing a lot of it and you want the best quality you can get. Okay, let's see. Moving on. Sitting versus standing. Well, you can do what is best for you and your environment. If you've got a desktop mic stand like this, or like what I showed with the blue snowball, then sitting is fine. Um, but keep in mind that if you've got your laptop in front of you or something, there's going to be fan noise coming from that laptop. So you might want to move the mic to a different area, move away from the laptop, turn the laptop off. We'll get to scripts and how to read them here in a second. But also, don't drink milk or orange juice. Stay away from dairy stuff because it'll kind of gum up your mouth and stuff. I just want to drink water, or another thing I read is that decaf tea with honey works well to really moisten the mouth so that you're going to not get so many mouth clicks and noises that are unpleasant. But standing and in the walk-in closet, I actually stand. It kind of opens up the diaphragm and your whole breathing and everything. And you also have the ability to gesticulate wildly if that's your thing. So welcome to this e-learning module, which I'm sure we all do. So just a couple options for you there. Whichever you're most comfortable with is the way to go. Headphones. You want to use closed back headphones. These are kind of Walkman-esque, but well, you can see them here. There's actually a cup around the ear, and he's not wearing it over the ear, which isn't ideal. But that way the sound won't bleed out of the headphones back into the microphone and cause any kind of feedback, or you don't want to hear the sound in your headphones come back into the mic. So find a good volume that's not too loud, that's not too soft, that you can hear things. You can really hear if you're making lip smacks or you need to say a word again or something, and try to do your best editing on the fly. And this is a different kind of reflection filter here that this guy's got. It's an EV, I believe, Electro Voice reflection filter. I've worked with them before. They also work really, really well. This one, I believe, is actually kind of expensive. I think it's a couple $100, but it'll fit on top of a mic stand, and you put the microphone inside of it. And so it also greatly reduces the audio reflections. Okay, audio interfaces. So we've already covered the Blue Snowball mic, or a USB mic like Leah's Yeti and such, and perhaps the Samsung mic that was mentioned. They're easy to connect, they're easy to set up, but they don't sound as good as an audio interface and a separate external microphone combo. If you're going for just quick, easy, inexpensive, if that's what your budget is, they're just fine for the majority of kind of e-learning stuff. You can still maximize what you've got with some of the things I'm going to go into in processing and software and such. But ultimately, it's best to go with an external audio interface, which can be USB or FireWire or whatever, that gives you separate control of input volume. Otherwise, you have to go to system settings and such and bump it up, as well as headphone volume. So it's you can just use the dials and dial in what you like. Also, usually an external audio interface will provide phantom power if you've got a condenser mic that needs that to run. And all around, you're likely going to have better quality if you use these. The microphone cable is called XLR, and it's got 3 prongs on it. We plug into that and plug into the back of the mic. And this one here, the Scarlett, is 2 inputs and 2 outputs, so it'd be a stereo one. But whatever you have within your budget, if you're a large organization, such as us here at Dell Technologies, we want everyone to have the same kit so that the quality isn't going to vary if we have a course where we have, say, 6 or 7 characters, which occasionally we do for scenario-based stuff. So if everybody's got the same starting place, we can work with the same quality audio. But when I narrate my own courses, I use my fancy stuff. But if I'm acting as a character in one of our courses, I'll use the voiceover kit so that we all sound the same. So if it's possible, whatever your organization chooses, assuming you're doing it organization-wise, if you're doing this just individually, then you use whatever you want. But standardization is a good idea. Okay, script formatting. All right. Anybody have a way that they like to format scripts? So I'm just going to show you some examples of how I do it. But anybody else have a preference of something, or you just read what is on the page, or do you have a specific format you go for?
Uh,
Sarah does.
well, I tend to do something in Word. I start with um, blocking out what I want the entire video to be like in PowerPoint. And then in Word, I just do a double space format, similar to that table, but my own style, quote unquote.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
I usually, I have something similar to what you have here, but I also build out my whole storyboard with the slide number, slide name, the speaker notes in, I use a blue font for that, and then orange for any activity. And then I have the picture of the slide, or in this case, I would just have a snippet of each of the pieces of the articulate. It probably takes me more time than it should, but in the end, I feel like I know exactly where I am and where my inflections have to be. But I like how clean yours is.
Well, we actually do two scripts for
Mhm.
our things. One is, as you said, which we do landscape mode, so that they're wider rather than they are tall. And in those, we have the slide number, the text. We'll have different color, just like you do, for action stuff, and then screenshot or directions on what to do in the final column. But when that has all gone through quality review and such, and it's ready to go, then the voiceover submitter, because we'll submit a voiceover request, they'll provide a script in something similar to this format for us to use. So it's helpful to have both. But for just in the vocal booth or when I'm recording, I don't want the distractions of I left the purple text in here, but it's not necessary. This is just for example. But you're totally exactly right. Two versions of the script it's helpful, but when I'm just doing voiceover, it'd be overwhelming to have a bunch of landscape pages with all the stuff on it I don't need. So I just limit it to slide number and the text in tables in Word. And what I like to do is put the slide number on the left. So I've got slide 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and so on, and the text on the right. And this helps with organizing what audio goes with what slide in Storyline or Captivate or whatever you're using. And so you can use this in your slide naming as well, which I'll get to in a second. So for long text things, like if sometimes you'll have a slide that's like 30 seconds, a minute long, or maybe more. And so that can go on and on and on with text. So by the way, I don't think I have this in the presentation, but if you're wondering how long your course is going to be, a good rule is to take the total number of words. This is without screen directions and stuff like that. Total number of spoken words and divide by 150. And that'll give you roughly a good estimate of how long your course is going to be in minutes. So that's 150. So keep that in mind. All right. So, but for long slides with a bunch of text on them, using serif fonts is easier to read. The human eye can catch on to the little decorations around the letters in a serif font. That's what serifs are, the decorations around the letters, versus sans serif, meaning without serifs, like Arial or Helvetica or something like that. So keep that in mind. If you've got a lot of text to read, that will help using Times or Palatino or something. So I suggest, this is just me, but it helps me visually to have a blank line after each line before the next table row begins.
Kevin?
What's that?
Yeah, hey, so we do a lot of screencasting for software instruction.
Yeah.
And so what we've done in the past is we've scripted out like that with the spaces in between lines and then copied and pasted. And we use Screencast-O-Matic, which is a very cheap screencasting tool, online
Okay.
tool. And so that enables us to just, when we copy that and paste it into from Word into Screencast-O-Matic, then it makes it a lot easier. It drops it in and it creates this, ability to click, it pastes it into a script component, and then you can just click the play button and then read your script that's published there as you're screencasting.
Okay. Well, there's certainly a number of different ways to do it. Just find whatever works for you. Another thing you can do too, if you're roughing in animations and such, is you can use some text to speech, computer digital audio to talk like Siri or something. Just as an example, to do the voiceover, then do your animation, and then finally record your actual voiceover to replace it. So that's another option as well. All right.
Kevin,
Yeah.
most of my recording is done live for webinars. And I'm wondering if you ever put the text, or at least, notes for the text in the PowerPoint notes section.
It really depends. If I'm presenting to a PowerPoint or such, if I've got a double monitor view, then I can read the script on one and then present with the other. But I would likely have the script separate from the PowerPoint notes section so that I could read it. And I've got a large monitor up here that I could put that up there and maybe have the PowerPoints side by side or something. But really, it's whatever works for you is best. I'm just giving you some general ideas.
Okay, thanks.
What to do, sure. All right, so for me, in my eyes, as they are at this point, I suggest using 14-point text. Again, that's going to depend on you and what works for you. Here's one that I discovered years ago that helps for these things. It's great to name like your slide just 1.1, but if you add a slide like between 1.1 and 1.2, and it becomes the new 1.2 in Storyline or something, it helps to add the first few words or word after the slide number so you know where that goes in the script. So you don't have to change the file name of 1.2 to 1.3 if you put in a new 1.2, because you know that that's the in this course audio file. So I hope that makes sense for stuff. But that it just helps me for stuff. It might help you. Okay. So once again, use whatever you prefer, however it works best for you. And also considering, like, if you're going to be reading from a computer screen, keep in mind the computer fan noise. A tablet might be a better way to go. I prefer paper, so I'll print my scripts out and then I'll save the paper and flip it over and then print a different script out. I've got to do that. And there you do have the risk of paper noise when you're holding a script, but I've done it for quite a while, so I'm kind of used to that and know how to listen for it. So tablet might be the way to go. They have no fan noise, so keep that in mind. But once again, it's whatever way you want to work that works best for you. Okay, software. Okay, so folks, what software have you guys used to record voiceover and edit it?
I've used Ableton and Reason before.
Awesome. You actually do voiceover in Reason?
Not really voiceover so much as more kind of creating noise.
Okay. In Ableton, have you done voiceover? And I believe it's called Ableton Live.
So I actually used an older version last. I haven't used the live version. It's been a couple of years. But yeah, I was able to do a little bit of voiceover.
Well, cool. Great. Anybody else?
Looks like Shane and I are the Audacity group.
Okay.
Sarah, what do we use, Sarah?
I just record directly into Screencast-O-Matic.
Can
Which
you
is
edit
also-
the sound in Screencast-O-Matic once you've recorded it?
A little, not it doesn't have a ton of audio capabilities, but it works really well when marrying the audio and video together. I don't think we have a separate audio software at the moment.
Can you export the audio separately from Screencast-O-Matic, process
Yep.
it, and re-import it?
Yep, I believe
Okay.
so.
Cool. So you'll still be able to take advantage of some of the stuff I'm going to show you. So I've heard a couple people mention Audacity. It's the king of free, completely free cross-platform audio editing. But you get what you pay for, unfortunately. It works. It's great for something quick, but if you've got a half-hour long course or something, it's going to take a lot of time to edit it and process that audio. And I'm going to show you the difference between Audacity, and it's a linear destructive audio editor, meaning that once you cut out some audio and move some other audio back, you've got a certain number of undos, but it's not really flexible. Once you've saved or rendered that file, you're stuck with it. You can't go back to your original recording unless you've saved it. But also, you have to save out each individual slide. Say if you've got 30 slides, you're going to have slide 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 separately from Audacity. So there are some time-saving things that I'm going to show you with non-linear, non-destructive audio editors, such as Audition, which is Adobe. I think it's like Creative Cloud for just Audition is like $20 a month. Reaper, personal license is $60 a month, or not a month, $60 flat out, like $225 for a pro license. And Pro Tools is the king of the audio editing world. Some other things you might hear about on the Mac side, GarageBand, Logic Pro, and things like that. There are a ton of these software pieces. We use Audition because it's got such flexibility, customizability, and the big thing is range marker exporting. That's my boss Mike Dobkin pointed out. Hey, look into Audition versus working with something else. And when I discovered range markers, it's like, wow, this is a tremendous time saver. And I'll show you. But whatever software you use, you want to set the input levels so that you're not going to peak over 0 dB. That will usually be a little red light, quote unquote, on the screen that gets lit when you clip, as it's called, when you go to 0 dB, and that means you're distorting. But you want to be kind of in the yellow to tickling the red range with your peaks being the loudest point of your audio around -3 dB occasionally, and set your recording at 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz mono, which is basically CD quality. A CD compact disc is 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz stereo, but as mono, it's just one voice coming out of both earphones or just speaker in the laptop. You don't need separate channel information for left and right earphones, which is why the stereo files are twice as big as mono files. So totally fine. You're recording a CD quality audio if you do 16-bit 44.1K mono. So now let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay. So can you guys hear this? I recorded this audio file in Audition and I've opened it up in Audacity. So here's just a little demo audio. Let me know if you can hear it.
Okay. Let's see. Welcome to this e-learning module. We're going to be talking about voiceover and stuff like that. Click the next button to continue. This is slide 2. There's not a lot on this slide. And this is slide 3. That's right. This is slide 3.
Okay. Can you guys hear that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you can see that this looks just an example of like a 3-slide thing that would be lead into more slides. So in Audacity, all this.
Okay. Let's see.
This could all be cut out. Don't need that. So you highlight it and delete it.
Welcome to this e-learning module. We're going to be talking about voiceover and stuff like that. Click the next button to continue.
And then for this little throat clearing area here, I want that to be silent. So click that. This would be slide 1, so we'd have to copy that to a separate file when we're done working with all the audio and paste it. I'm not aware of a way to make markers to say this is slide 1, this is slide 2, this is slide 3. So
this is slide 2. There's not a lot on this slide.
Okay, so there'd be slide 2.
And this is slide 3.
Okay, so got a lot to cut out there, obviously. And it happens when you're recording voiceover, you could have coughs and sniffles and things like that. So all of this, let's see.
Slide 3.
Okay, so we have to adjust our selection and hit delete and see how that sounds.
And this is slide 3. That's right, this is slide 3.
And then we delete this bit. And we're kind of stuck with
this. This is slide 3.
Except for undos. If I wanted to undo, there's a certain number of undos you can do. Then at that point, you could apply your effects. You could normalize the audio, do some EQ and some compression and such like that. But you're kind of, once you process it, you're fairly much stuck with it. And then you have to go cut and paste or each one of these into a new file, paste it, save it out, or actually export it as a WAV file or MP3, whatever you want to do, but I recommend WAV file. Name it, put it in the right folder, and then go back to the first one and do it all over again. So it is really a difficult workflow. It's not very efficient. And so let me show you how that differs with Audition.
Okay. Let's see. Welcome to this.
Okay. So we can just split this audio by right-clicking. Split. Holding Shift backspace deletes that. Go home.
Welcome to the.
What we can do is hit M, that adds a marker, and then we can change this to a range marker. Rename it. And then
welcome to this e-learning module. We're going to be talking about voiceover and stuff like that. Click the next button to continue.
Okay, that's where we want to split again. We want to cut out this, is that throat clearing. So you just drag over it and create the end of the region. We can hop back. Oops. All kinds of stuff. To the end of that region, there's our endpoint. Paste it in there. Go back here, add another marker. I'm having a hard time getting on it there. Rename it where we want.
On this slide.
Okay, that's where we want the end of slide 2. Split that. Copy the endpoint. Paste. Another thing we can do is we can change the colors of these for organizational purposes. So it's easy to see where slide 1 ends, where slide 2 begins, etc. Slide 3.
And
I'll add a marker there. Convert it to a range.
And what, Kevin, what struck me as cool yesterday when we were talking about this was the idea that it's not only is it saving time, but if I need to go back, I have the entire thing. So I haven't lost anything, and I can export it all. And maybe I'm stealing your thunder.
Slide.
I can export it all
Yep.
in one batch rather than individually.
So what is going on here? This is non-destructive editing. All of this audio is still there, all the source audio. We have not deleted a single thing. So all you need to do to get back your audio, if I wanted that end piece, just drag out the region and it's there for if you wanted the chair noise or anything like that. So, that purple. Okay, so we've got 3 slides here, and clearly differentiated by color. So if I wanted to go back to it and edit it later, I could very easily see where it went. So we'll change it to a single audio file, which isn't really editing mode. And here's where we can apply our effects all at once, normalize to -3 dB. If you watch that, you see these peaks are way up here near high, near 0. What I like to do is normalize to -3. What that does, it takes the highest point of the audio down to 3 without -3 here, without reducing the audio of the other, the level of the other pieces of the audio. So now we can apply our effects. I've got 2 that I use all the time, the EQ and the dynamics processing. So with EQ, we roll off. EQ is just a filter. It filters out the sound or adds to it what's already there, accentuates it. So what I recommend is filtering out about 80 to 100 hertz. That's your air conditioning noise, that kind of stuff. So that removes
Welcome to this
that.
e-learning
And
module.
also, if you pull down a bit around 300 hertz, that removes some mud and such. And the noise gate is what an audio gate is. And what that does is it makes things silent after a certain threshold's reached so that it really keeps things quiet.
We're going to be talking about voiceover and stuff like that. Click the next button to continue.
There's no noise. So you play with these settings, the compressor around 2 to 1. That means for every 2 dB, it goes above the threshold, which is at -18 dB. It'll take it down. Every 1 dB it goes above, it'll take it down 2 dB. And what that does is an automatic volume control. So if you look at the makeup button down here, that I've got it now raising the volume after the compressor by 11.4 dB. So it's squashing down the top of the audio, reducing the volume on the waveform. You see this peak. It'll reduce that down a certain amount without touching the levels of the other thing. It's more similar to normalization. And then you do the makeup volume. So your tops are squashed. You do your makeup volume for the whole thing. Everything is raised up closer to 0. So you end up with a much smoother waveform of stuff, and it sounds much more even without a lot of dynamic range. For stuff that you're worried about peak over 0, you can put a limiter on it. I've got this set at -0.1 dB. So a limiter is like a brick wall compressor. Nothing will go past it. So that's the way to safety check. Now, I want you to look at the volume before and after the processing for this.
This is slide 2. There's not a lot on this slide.
So you see that was very near 0 in this level meter down here. If I turn these off,
this is slide 2. There's not a lot on this slide.
Sounds much less present.
And this is slide 3.
So when you're done processing everything, apply your effects and see how everything grew, but nothing has gone over 0. What's cool about Audition, select your markers. We have to do this once. Export your audio files, use the marker names as file names, choose where you want it to go. Let's see. And export, you're done. Your audio files are now ready to import separately into Storyline or whatever it's going to be, and it's processed. And you can do this kind of processing for any audio. You can export audio from a video and process it, re-import it back into the video, what have you. But those are some time-saving reasons to use something like Audition over something else. Okay, so we've already talked about software. I'm going to move on here. Post-processing, I kind of walked through it before, and we're running out of time. I want to leave some time for Q&A. So this is the same stuff I kind of talked through. Normalize your entire audio after you've recorded it. I like to normalize to -3 dB. That's the loudest parts of your audio will be at -3. Roll off EQ at 100 hertz to get rid of rumble, like air conditioning airplanes and dinosaur footsteps. Take a few dB out at around 300 hertz. You're going to have to use your ears, but it seems like a good place to remove some mud. Use a noise gate. And all of these things you have to adjust to taste, so that when you set the noise gate, make sure the ends of words aren't getting chopped off. And you can set the threshold and the release of it so it's not on every other thing. Sure, you can do that if you want to, but you can also have it much more natural with slopes. The compressor start at 2.1 with makeup gain. You don't want to overdo compression. This is different from MP3 compression or JPEG or something. This is audio compression, completely different thing. You want the reduction meter to show that you're reducing 2 to 6 dB, usually at the most on the peaks. Don't go too crazy. And that will lower the dynamic range, make your audio much more even across the whole thing. Set a limiter so that the audio doesn't peak or go over 0. Apply your effects and then save your audio files as 16-bit 44.1K WAV files. You can save as MP3 files, but I prefer to keep the highest quality source stuff and let my authoring tool do the exporting on everything at once. So I highly recommend sticking with WAV files until you're ready to publish. And then when you publish your stuff from Storyline, and I'm sure it's the same in Captivate to a certain degree or something, set your publish settings. Custom optimization is 64 kilobits per second, which is half of, if you think about, if you buy a song off iTunes or something, it'll be a stereo 128 kilobits per second MP3 file. When you export at 64 kilobits, since we're not doing stereo files, we're doing mono, that is perfectly fine. You can't tell the difference.
Can you show that where you clicked? So you clicked on publish, and then you clicked.
Well, I'm on web right now, but if you're on LMS, it'd be the same kind of thing under quality properties.
Quality, okay.
Custom optimization, audio bit rate.
I'm doing that today.
Okay. And don't click optimize audio volume, because if you've gone through the steps that I've already talked about, your audio volume is already optimized. It will sound perhaps weird if it processes it again. So that is really it. Let me get back to the Storyline thing and see if I can answer any questions for you guys. Hope that was useful. I went pretty quick.
As I mentioned, everyone, I can see where this could lead to a chapter meeting or something of that sort where we could continue to dig in. But please feel free to jump off mute or ask questions on the chat. Miranda said very useful. Thank you. I had a question, Kevin. You talk about dBs. Is that decibels?
Yes.
Okay. Yay, I got something right today.
And there's my LinkedIn address at the bottom of the screen there. If someone
Thank
wants to
you.
send me a question there too, be happy to help.
Yeah. What questions do you guys have?
I don't know that I have a question at this time, but I tell you though, in thinking, Leah, about like these types of sessions, just, having some ask the expert type of sessions, where if you're doing voiceover, if you're doing other things and you have someone who's kind of handling and taking Q&A, what do I do and how does this work, would be very beneficial in the future. So.
Great point. I like that. Yeah.
that too. Ask the expert. That's another this area. Great.
Shane, did you have any parting questions?
Sorry, no, I've been on mute because there's been some background noise, but this was really helpful. I appreciate the getting us to hear the differences in different clips and different microphones. I had never thought about the switching the settings on the microphone, so really appreciated that part.
Cool. I'm glad that helped out.
Yeah. Kevin, I shared with one of my colleagues today, she and I go back and forth with script writing about the sans serif versus serif.
Mhm.
And I think that's going to be a huge help for me. Just little tiny tweaks that
Yeah.
I've already incorporated.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I want to thank everyone for their time, especially Kevin. I appreciate you bringing this to us for ATD Austin. And I'll try to keep it quiet so the Piedmont chapter doesn't try to grab you up, or Raleigh Durham chapter.
Research Triangle. whatever,
Research
yeah.
Triangle. They're near and dear to our hearts as well. Again, I want to thank everyone for their time today and remind them of a couple things. The first is that at 1:30, I will be producing but not hosting another session for the ATD pre-conference. If you want to come back and listen to this session again, they will all be housed on the Pathable website. So anyone who's registered for the conference, including yourself, Kevin, because you've been a presenter.
Totally love to listen to this again.
So, and others. We have plenty of different pre-conference and conference sessions coming up in the next week or so. We want to acknowledge the work that everyone has already done on the conference. So thank you to Shannon and Lisa and Diana and Amy who are on the call. I don't know if Diana's on the call. And just to remind you that if you get a chance to share what you've learned on LinkedIn, we appreciate that as well. And give Kevin a shout out on LinkedIn and thank him because we appreciate his time. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Hopefully this was useful to you.
Very
much.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Leah.
You're welcome.
You.